Welcome to Under Two Capes News. That's right, the new show is back, baby. And what a week that we decide to upload another episode. So let's get in talking about the Marvel lawsuits that are going about. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, and I found out about this like yesterday. So this article is coming from Bounding into Comics, and it's talking about Marvel Strikes Back countersues to keep rights to multiple characters, including Avengers and Spider-Man. So for context, the estates of a few of Marvel's legendary creators are trying to get the creative rights back for certain characters like Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and such. And Marvel is trying to keep the creative rights for those characters. Now, if the estates were to win, that doesn't mean that Marvel can't do Spider-Man or Iron Man or any of the Avengers anymore. What that means is they would have to actually pay the families of these character creators more money, which would in itself discourage them from using them and discourage Marvel from using these characters, honestly, because Marvel likes to make money. All right. Just one day after the public was made aware of efforts by the estates of Steve Ditko, co-creator of Spider-Man, to terminate their copyright claims to Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, has countersued both the Ditko estate and a number of creators who have filed similar lawsuits in an attempt by the publisher to retain their exclusive rights to a number of their iconic characters. So once again, the estates of these creators are suing so they can possibly get the creative rights back for like the Avengers characters that you and I know and love. So let's look at this. Okay, as first reported, the Hollywood Reporter, who claims to have viewed but did not make public that the freshly filed complaints made by the attorneys. The once renowned member of the comic book Big Two is seeking a declaratory relief that these blockbuster characters are ineligible for copyright termination as works made for hire, a legal designation whose provisions would render the publisher as the sole owner of the characters. In their legal filing against Iron Man, Thor, and Ant-Man creator Larry Lieber, the only one provided by the Hollywood Reporter, Marvel can be seen arguing that they assigned Lieber stories to write, had the right to exercise creative control over Lieber's contributions, and paid Lieber a per-page rate for his contributions. Any contribution made under their instance and expense renders all respective contributions by a given creator as work made for hire. This rendered copyright termination laws inapplicable. So basically what they're saying is, okay, so we hired them to use we hired and paid them to write stories with these characters and create these characters. So there really are characters. That's a problem with writing for like the Big Two, because you ultimately don't own those as characters. That's what made like publishing houses like Image so popular, because in Image, you retain full, as far as I know, you retain creative control over your characters. You retain ownership of your characters. Like, let me put it this way. Todd McFarlane owns Spawn. That's his character. The publisher further asserts that the cases bear more than a passing similarity to a previous attempt made by the estate of Jack Kirby to terminate Marvel's copyright over his various co-creations, including the Fantastic Four, the Hulk, Spider-Man, Thor, and Iron Man, which in 2013, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals determined held no water, since Kirby had created the characters as a work made for hire. So in other words, Marvel is arguing that this was all part of the job that we hired you to do. You don't necessarily own these characters. According to the United States Copyright Law Act of 1976, work made for hire is defined as a work prepared by an employee within the scope of his or her employment, or a work specially ordered or commissioned for use as a contribution to a collective work as part of a motion picture or other audio-visual work, as a translation, as a supplemental work, as a compilation, whatever, going through this. If the parties expressly agree in a written statement signed by them that the work shall be considered a work made for hire. Yeah. So in other words, when they sign their employment contract, that's what it says. Further, the U.S. Copyright Office adds that termination provisions are intended to protect the authors and their heirs against unremunerative agreements by giving them an opportunity to share the later economic success of their works by allowing authors or their heirs during particular periods of time long after the original grant to retain the previously granted copyright laws. This is really complicated. So here's a list of all the people suing. That's a dope House of M image. If unsuccessful in their efforts to define the contributions of the above creators as works for hire, in other words, if the courts side against Marvel, Marvel would inevitably be forced to share some of the profits derived from said characters with the respective creators if they wish to continue using most of their first string lineups. Meaning, if they want to continue using Iron Man, Spider-Man, all these characters, they're going to have to share with the people that made these characters, which in my mind only seems fair. However, a legal victory for Marvel would set a worrying precedent for copyright termination law, but also provided Disney with further ammunition to use in their continuing fight against the advancement of their characters into the public domain. All right. So drop in the comments real quick what you guys think of this development. It's a really complicated case, and there are lots of moving parts. And ultimately, it comes down to if Marvel can convince the court that these characters were made by work for hire. Because if they can't do that, then the court will inevitably side with in this case, the defendants, and lead to Marvel having to share the profits for like all these characters if they want to continue using them, which I think would be pretty interesting. It'd be interesting to see if Marvel loses, if they would continue using these characters, or if they would start phasing like all these important characters out. Like they would phase Iron Man, Spider-Man out. They're probably not going to phase Spider-Man out because he's too popular. But let me put it this way: Marvel's made a bunch of dumb decisions. This would not surprise me. Watch, this is how they have to bring in the X-Men, because now, actually, they might have the X-Men might be included in this. Man, Marvel could, I don't know how this goes. This would be quite an interesting development if the court side against Marvel. Honestly, at this point, I'm expecting them to side with Marvel because that's normally how these things go. But I'll be very interested to follow this and see what happens. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. New show is back. It's going to be every week. And if you guys have any stories you want us to cover, drop in the comments or shoot us a DM on Instagram at Comics League 2020. And remember, you can also shoot us an email at comicsleague2020@gmail.com. And yeah, guys, I guess that's it. Have a good weekend. Have a good week. And we will see you Wednesday for the X-Men show. Anyway, stay woke, everyone. Bye-bye.